Jesus never will retire, you know. I know Jesus worked 7 days a week, or 6 days. He rested on Sunday, didn't he? Well, Michael Jordan played on Sunday.
Michael Jordan is a man considered by many to be the greatest basketball player of all time. The issue here is, many basketball fans also regard LeBron James as the greatest, which isn't outrageously crazy. But there are some serious deciding factors that many of these bronzesexuals shy away from. I'm not here to bash your favorite player. Hell, I respect James a lot. Just listen to what I have to say. We'll be looking at countless areas of our work to prove that Mike was and is the greatest basketball player to walk this earth. Before I start breaking down who did what better, I should probably tell you what I value the most when talking about who the better player was. The main points that determine the GOAT are simple. Who is a better offensive player, who is a better defender, and breaking down the accolades. Good enough? Alright, let's get into it. The first area of work we're looking at is scoring. On the surface, yes, James does have more total career points. He outscores Jordan by 251 points, with James playing 126 more games than Jordan. 126 games. Yes, more than a season and a half of basketball puts him only 251 points ahead of Mike. Well, Jordan shot 1,059 more times than James and look at the points. Now, where I can honestly say there's a valid point there, let's take into comparison how many three-pointers are being shot now in the league. This past season, the league average for three-pointers attempted per game was 32. Looking back at 1996's threes attempted per game was half of that, with 16. It makes way more sense that LeBron would be getting more points considering this upward trend in the NBA. Stats-wise, LeBron barely shoots better, with a 50.4 to 49.7 field goal percentage. So cool, a 0.7 difference. Just for the fun of it, I decided to see where LeBron has taken most of his shots in his career. 36% of his shots have come within 3 feet of the rim, where Jordan attempted shots from 15 to 19 feet away more than any other shot range. And before anyone says it makes no sense to bring up the point that LeBron has taken more threes and shoots a barely higher percentage, we also need to take into account that the range he has taken second most at is 24 and back, where for Jordan, that's where he attempted the least. So where LeBron is a slightly better three-point shooter in a three-point dominant shooting league, Jordan was stuck in an era where it was all about rugged defense and mid-range shots. To conclude the scoring debate, we have to talk about Jordan's dominance scoring the basketball. He has 10 scoring titles compared to LeBron's measly 1. LeBron hovers around the 26 to 28 range for points throughout almost his entire career, which is great, but not compared to his airness. It would be considered a down year for Jordan if he averaged less than 30, not to mention the fact that Jordan averages 3 more points per game than James. Anyways, it's as simple as it comes in this discussion, where it's blatantly obvious who the better scorer was. Alright, now let's talk about how they stack up when it comes to playmaking ability. So the next part of the offensive spectrum is assists, where LeBron pretty much runs away with it, having 3 more per game and about 3,000 more all time. This can be slanted considering that LeBron takes the ball up the court a lot of the time, even though he's a small forward, in a league where defense is less important. Despite saying that, it's obvious that LeBron is one of the greatest playmakers of all time. But let's tell a little story about the time where Michael Jordan had to play 11 games at point guard. The year was 1988, and Jordan had to sit out a game against the Boston Celtics, who didn't have Larry Bird playing either. Chicago laid an egg and somehow managed to lose by 9 points. After that game, he had a meeting with Doug Collins, who was the coach at the time. The same Doug Collins that later went on to say, "Give the ball to Michael and everyone else get the fuck out of the way." Anyways, after Jordan talked about his frustrations with the offense, he made an 11-game stint at point guard where he absolutely dominated the league more than he usually did. Just check the numbers on the screen. The unknown of this is if Jordan would have been able to keep up those numbers. And honestly, I think he would have been able to maintain a triple-double throughout the rest of the season. I'm fine with saying LeBron is a better playmaker, but Jordan's passing ability was definitely underlooked. Next, we'll talk about the defensive side of the ball. One thing LeBron fans seem to not understand is that Mike is one of the greatest defensive players ever. Is that a knock on LeBron? No. But especially this past season, James really lacked consistency on one side of the court. And to be the greatest ever, you can't just play one side of the ball. Now let's take a look at the all-time leaders in steals. Yeah. So Jordan has a really nice cushion between him and James. A number LeBron could only dream of touching. Consider it taking into factor that some of your guys' GOAT has 126 more games played also, an excuse you can't make when it comes to steals. For blocks, James has 28 more all time, which gives him a slight edge. There's not much to debate here, as James is taller and guards players in the paint more often, so I'd call it a wash. After blocks are rebounds. Yes, I know LeBron is light years ahead of Jordan in rebounds, snagging about 2,000 more. I have no argument for this one. James wins rebounds easily. Next, we'll be looking at competition and the supporting cast around him. Okay, now this part really pisses me off. I'm combining competition and supporting cast all into one. We always want to talk about how Jordan didn't win a ring without Pippen, where LeBron James, apparently not a team accomplishment when we're talking about him, somehow managed to beat an entire 15-man roster by himself. James had a future Hall of Famer in Dwayne Wade, All-Stars Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, and Chris Bosh, and also lots of shooters around him such as Ray Allen, Kyle Korver, J.R. Smith, and many more. Jordan's supporting cast earlier in his career was Horace Grant, who is a decent player. That's it. Throughout his entire career, Mike had Scottie Pippen, a 36-year-old Dennis Rodman for 2 years, who averaged 5 points a game but grabbed lots of rebounds. And the only true scoring he had, besides Pippen, over this time period, were Steve Kerr and B.J. Armstrong. I'm also aware that Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh didn't play for the Cavs in 2016, when LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, and the 2016 Cavs beat the historic 72-10 Golden State Warriors. I'm just talking about their entire career's supporting cast. Even if it seems like I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel for reasons, trust me, I'm not. I think it's ridiculous to compare supporting casts unless it's some ungodly team like the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, or the Showtime Lakers, who had Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy, and many more players. Every team needs a star and a decent supporting cast around him. Next up is the fact that the competition was way harder in the 90s. For starters, the physicality was unparalleled to any other decade, which would really take a toll on your body, especially playing games very close to each other. After that, take your pick. Jordan had no supporting cast early on against the Celtics, who had 3 Hall of Famers on their team, also including an above-average point guard in Dennis Johnson and sharpshooter Danny Ainge. Take into account, Jordan only played 7 games in 1986 due to a broken foot, to fight his way back just in time for the first round of the playoffs. He dropped a light 49 and 63 in the first and second games, but still fell short in the best-of-5 series, as the Celtics swept the Bulls 3-0. We have to remember Jordan had absolutely no help around him, and scored half of his team's points against a historic team, who ended up winning it all that year. I'm just saying, that sounds a little bit tougher than what LeBron James teams had to go up against in the finals. Before we continue, I'll throw up a picture of first-round opponents to further prove that Mike had such a tougher road to the finals than James ever did. Try to name the guys that Jordan had to play against on the left, and LeBron did on the right. I'm not saying LeBron hasn't played against tough opponents, but definitely not in the first, second, or even third round, in the still weak Eastern Conference, which was a completely different ballgame in the 1990s. The only exception here was in 2010 in the first round against a young Bulls team of Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah. And no, I'm not counting the Celtics with the very old Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Next up, we'll be taking a look at the accolades. The one I've been looking forward to the most. accolades. Let's hear what Jordan has more of. 1 more MVP, 3 more Finals MVPs, 4 more All-Defensive First Teams, 1 more Defensive Player of the Year awards. LeBron has a whopping 0, by the way. As we covered earlier, 9 more scoring titles, 3 more steals leaders. Another goose egg for James. And oh, yeah, 3 more championships, which we'll dive into in a second. What does James have more of than Jordan? 2 more All-NBA First Teams. So good for LeBron, where we can all agree the voting for that is just a popularity contest. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to say, LeBron's team accomplishment has led him to 9 finals appearances, which is 3 more than Jordan's. Since you guys love to bring up the fact that participation awards matter for some reason, the 6 times he and his team have lost in the finals. Now time to move on to the NBA championship discussion. Is it a team accomplishment? Yes. Can star players absolutely carry their teams to championships? Sometimes. Did Michael Jordan absolutely dominate every single team that he played in the finals? The answer is absolutely yes. Don't even bring up to me that LeBron is the greatest playoff performer ever. There were so many series that James has lost but put up garbage time numbers to make his stats look better than what they should have been. Not even to bring up the games where he completely disappeared. But Jesus, anyone could get stats in garbage time. That's the only time I played in middle school. Jordan destroyed the Utah Jazz, who had the all-time leader in steals and assists, paired with the 2nd all-time leading scorer and 8th all-time in rebounds, while being hung over for a game. Not to mention, MJ averaged 33.6 points per game, 6 assists per game, almost 2 steals per game, and 6 rebounds per game, against guys like Magic Johnson, John Stockton, Gary Payton, and Clyde Drexler, and obviously I'm only naming the guards, with a perfect 6-0 record. It's a team accomplishment for sure, but Jordan absolutely demolished whoever was in his way. Do I even need to bring up that James got absolutely shut down by the Spurs in his first final appearance, and in his second got clamped up by an old Jason Terry? Not to mention the 2014, when him, Wade, and Bosh lost to the Spurs, where James inflated his stats in garbage time. So now for the conclusion. Jordan was the better player all around. As far as we know, James has checked out completely on defense. Mike's teams also never finished last in team defensive ratings. And yes, those matter. Want to bring up assists? Nice. If Jordan took the ball up the same amount of times as James did, and played against players who didn't play a lot of defense also, we'd be having a different discussion. James isn't even close to Jordan as a better scorer or defender, where Mike is not that far behind LeBron when it comes to playmaking. So how can LeBron James, the guy who isn't the better offensive player, defensive player, and less accomplished person overall, be considered the greatest of all time? That is honestly beyond me. So to conclude this debate, there wasn't that much that LeBron is actually better than Jordan at, proving that the real GOAT, and for the near future, is Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And that ends our first video ever. If you guys like the video, hit that thumbs up button. Click that subscribe button while you're at it. It'd mean a lot to me. If you guys still want to argue with me, do it in the comment section below. If you want to say anything, do that in the comment section also. Until next time, I'm out. I can't wait for the next video. See you guys later.